Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast tonight, the Joint Board of Elections called a special meeting Monday to iron out a few issues before the upcoming election. Way down the agenda was the issue of an appeal filed by gubernatorial candidates, but a majority of the board voted to move it to the top of the list. News 2's Erica Parsons has the story.
Lieutenant Governor hopeful Basil Ali Jr. will stay in the 2014 elections race for now. Elections board members questioned the supervisor of elections at a special joint board meeting Tuesday over her July 8th decision deeming candidate Ali eligible to run. The gubernatorial team of Molito Smith Jr. and Hubert Frederick challenged Ali's bona fide residency earlier this month and appealed to the boards of election after Supervisor Carolyn Fox's response.
Whether he voted in the Virgin Islands or not, whether he maintained a family home in the Virgin Islands or not, is not our question, it's not our challenge. Our only challenge is whether Mr. Otley meets the 5 years consecutive bona fide residency requirement, and it's evident to us, based on what we heard as observers today, that that was not tested.
If I, individual, had to meet all those standards that's laid out, why is it some people were exempt from that? There's 4 specific tests that the law says you have to meet. We only discussed 3.
Otley moved out of the territory in 2008 for a federal job and moved back in 2010. Board members pored over the eligibility documents Fox used in the vetting process.
Continuing domicile. Any person who is an elected or appointed official, officer, or employee of the government of the Virgin Islands or of the federal government who is required thereby to be absent from the Virgin Islands may retain his legal residence in the Virgin Islands and in the island of domicile.
Each member got 3 minutes to question Fox, and then they voted 6-4 in favor of upholding Fox's stance. The Christensen-Otley team has maintained that Otley is eligible under the VI Code, saying the law gives employees of the local and federal government the right to retain residency if their work requires them to be on the mainland for a period of time, as long as they do not vote outside of the territory, which Otley did not. Now, the Smith Jr. Frederick team says there are specific requirements as a VI taxpayer to be met, which determines whether a person is present and qualified to be a bona fide resident. Since they don't believe that their concerns were addressed, they plan to consult with their legal team, and then they will use every recourse available to them, even if that means going to court. Back to you, Sandy.
And just a reminder of some important election dates coming up. Testing of electronic voting machines will take place on July 31st. August 2nd is the primary election. Then the casting of lots will be held on August 12th to determine the position of the names on the general election ballot. November 4th is a general election, and if a runoff is necessary, it will be held on November 18th. The election board reminds voters and candidates that a complete and detailed elections calendar is posted on their website, which is www.vivote.org. One Voice Virgin Islands will be conducting a press conference on Thursday, July 24th at 10 a.m. at Emancipation Gardens. Now, the purpose of the press conference, they say, is to inform the media and the public on their position on the proposed same-sex marriage bill that Senator Judy Buckley is introducing. Your participation and any questions you may have about their position on the issue of same-sex marriage is welcomed. Again, it's on Thursday, July 24th at 10 a.m. at Emancipation Gardens. Traffic along the Queen Mary Highway on St. Croix stalled for 2 hours on Monday afternoon, and this was due to a shooting incident that happened around 3:20 in the Lower Love area that left 1 person killed. 2 vehicles crashed, and 2 other people were injured as a result of this shooting. News 2's April Knight has the details.
A Monday shooting in St. Croix carved another notch in the tally of homicides in the territory. It happened in broad daylight and took another young life. On Monday afternoon, a gunman stood in front of the Lower Love service station and opened fire on a green sedan.
A male individual who was standing in the area began firing shots at the vehicle, striking the victim.
Inside, the 20-year-old driver lost control of the wheel and crashed into a nearby wall. He was dead at the scene.
The victim died from shots fired while he was driving a vehicle on the Queen Mary Highway west to east. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. A female minor was a passenger in the victim's vehicle, and she was injured by shattered glass and taken to the Governor Juan F. Louis Hospital and Medical Center for treatment.
A byproduct of the shooting was another crash. The driver of a truck behind the targeted vehicle lost control.
Police said another vehicle also crashed into the same concrete entrance alongside of the Honda Civic, but was not involved in the shooting. That driver lost control of his vehicle during the incident and crashed.
The driver of the truck was also taken to Juan Louis Hospital. The 20-year-old victim, identified by his friends as Eddie Harriet, could have been any young man. He has a social media page where his last post was on July 15, smiling pictures of himself. The next posts came Monday from grieving friends and family who are still in shock at his death. Monday's shooting marks the 26th homicide case in the Virgin Islands for 2014. 12 happened on St. Croix, 1 on St. John, and 13 on St. Thomas. This case remains under investigation. Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Now, as of news time, there were no updates from the Juan Louis Hospital on the status of the 2 persons injured in this incident. The Major Crimes Unit urges anyone who has any information regarding this shooting to call them at 712-6031. You can also call 911 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. Meanwhile, on St. Thomas, police are investigating a non-fatal shooting that injured a 12-year-old boy in Berg's home. The victim was shot in his left lower leg while walking his dog on July 21st, about 9:30 p.m.
According to the preliminary report, police said the victim was walking his dog with a neighbor near Building 6 when he saw at least one person running, and then he heard shots. The victim ran into the archway of the building and realized that he was shot in his leg. He was taken to the Schneider Regional Medical Center by a private vehicle, where he was treated and released. Criminal Investigation Bureau detectives are following up on this case, and if you have any information on how this minor was injured by a gunshot, please call detectives at 714-9834 or 714-5522.
44-year-old Ronald Todman Jr. was arrested on July 19th and charged with embezzlement and obtaining money under false pretenses. Police officers said Todman was observed on Home Depot surveillance cameras conducting fraudulent merchandise returns. According to the VIPD, the surveillance evidence is from April 6 through July 6. Todman was arrested and placed on a $20,000 bail, which he was unable to post. He was remanded to the custody of the Bureau of Corrections pending further court action. Turning our attention overseas, forensics experts with Interpol have begun identifying the remains of the people who died on Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. Suzanne McGinnis is in Washington with more.
President Obama arrived at the Dutch Embassy in Washington, D.C. to sign a condolence book honoring those who died in the Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 crash in Ukraine.
This is an opportunity for me to extend on behalf of all the American people our deepest condolences.
In Kharkiv, Ukraine, the bodies of those killed on Flight 17 arrived by train. They're expected in the Netherlands on Wednesday. And separatist rebels have turned over the plane's black boxes to Malaysian officials. British investigators will examine the data. But at the crash site, international observers say there are signs of significant tampering. Russian President Vladimir Putin met with his Security Council this morning and says he will use his influence to ensure a full and proper investigation. But not everyone is buying it. European Union members voted to impose new sanctions against Russian officials and say further sanctions could be coming if Russia doesn't stop supporting the rebels in Ukraine. The White House says it will work with its European allies as they consider sanctions against Russia.
We are going to continue to work with the international community to coordinate efforts to impose costs on Russia.
President Putin says he will continue to support the separatists. He says they are part of a popular uprising against an illegal coup in Kiev. Susan McGinnis, CBS News, Washington.
Be sure to count on CBS News at 7:30 for all the latest. Meanwhile, keeping our eye on the economy, U.S. and European airlines are suspending flights to Israel after a rocket landed near the airport in Tel Aviv. Delta, United, American, and U.S. Airways are among the carriers that have stopped flying. The FAA later prohibited all U.S. carriers from flying into Tel Aviv for 24 hours. The agency says it will continue to monitor conditions. Here's a look at the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. Everything up. The Dow 61, NASDAQ 31, S&P 9. Coming up on News 2, Senator Kenneth Gittens introduced legislation to amend Title 33 of the Virgin Islands Code, abolishing pension payments to spouses of deceased governors and lieutenant governors. Details. Plus, do you know which St. Croix attraction was viewed to be so special that it was proclaimed by President John F. Kennedy as a national monument in 1961? It's our featured summer fun spot. We'll be right back. Senator Kenneth Gittens introduced legislation to amend Title 33 of the Virgin Islands Code, abolishing pension payments to spouses of deceased governors and lieutenant governors. The bill, number 30-0356, sponsored, seeks to repeal Section 22 of Act number 7458 regarding the First Lady's pension. Here's details.
We all recognize that our economy is struggling, and we simply cannot afford to continue paying pensions to spouses of elected officials who are not vested, thereby creating another unfunded liability. While the current pension provided to Mrs. Louis, the wife of the late Governor Juan Francisco Louis, cannot be withdrawn, it is not prudent to continue paying a pension to spouses of elected officials just because. The repeal of the First Lady pension is not an indictment on Mrs. Louis, but rather a measure to streamline our diminishing financial resources.
Again, the senator stressed that Mrs. Louise's pension will not be affected. Be sure to count on 2 to keep you updated. Time for our summer fun segment. Now, do you know which St. Croix attraction was viewed to be so special that it was proclaimed by President John F. Kennedy as a national monument in 1961? It's St. Croix's Buck Island Reef National Monument. Just off the north coast of St. Croix, you'll find this 19,000-acre national monument. You can enjoy swimming and diving at Turtle Beach or snorkeling at Buck Island's underwater trail, where you can surround yourself with coral, rare species, fish, and other wildlife. Now book your charter to enjoy this exquisite experience. Turtle Beach on Buck Island's west end has been voted one of the world's most beautiful beaches by National Geographic. The White Coral Sands Beaches is a haven for endangered brown pelicans and a nesting area for 3 species of sea turtles and 4,554 acres of water and coral reef system. The second in a series of 3 public scoping meetings to respond to submitted comments for New St. John School and present findings of the Phase 1 archaeological study for suggested property for the school. That's planned on Tuesday. The meeting will be held at the Julius E. Sprouse School cafeteria on Tuesday, July 29th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Now, the public is urged to submit their questions and comments regarding a new school on St. John by visiting the Department of Education's website at www.vide.vi and clicking on Special Projects. Representatives from Education and Public Works, along with the architect of record, will be on hand to respond to comments and seek input. The Americans with Disabilities Act is commemorating 24 years, and in recognition, on Wednesday, July 23rd, at the UVI ACC building on St. Thomas, and Friday, July 25th, at the UVI Great Hall in St. Croix. The events will begin at 10 a.m. The public is invited to attend this free reception and be inspired by singer, author, and motivational speaker Mario Arnaz Bonds of NBC Universal, The Glee Project. Again, the celebration is on Wednesday on St. Thomas and Friday on St. Croix, both at 10 a.m., events held at the University of the Virgin Islands. This summer, the University of the Virgin Islands Reichel Center for the Arts began much-needed capital improvement projects to restore and enhance the 1,196-seat facility. These projects will address water intrusion, cistern rehabilitation, roof and exterior sheathing repair, exterior signage replacement, Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility, and electrical upgrades. The Reichel Center Foundation Board initiated the capital projects in October of 2012. The Reichel Center's parking, accessible routes, restrooms, and seating will all be upgraded. The main power distribution system, generator, and automatic transfer switch will also be upgraded. All the capital improvement projects are expected to be completed by the summer of 2015. We'll be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.